My first thoughts were that, oh, this is going to be very easy to prosecute. But that's not where the story has gone. Where the story has gone is that Governor Tim Walz, the Democratic governor of Minnesota, knew that this was happening because as many as 400 state employees attempted to blow the whistle on it and to report it to state authorities. And what did Walz do? He went after the whistleblowers. Unforgivable.
For years, the public has been told that government oversight keeps our tax dollars safe and our leaders accountable. But in this recent interview with John Kiriakou, we learn how, behind closed doors, officials have allowed billions to vanish, sometimes straight into the hands of terrorist groups, while punishing anyone brave enough to speak out. Today, we're exposing the hidden networks of fraud, cover-ups, and political deals that authorities desperately want to keep out of the headlines.
To me, that is a prosecutable felony. And if I were Tim Walz, I would be looking for an A-list criminal defense attorney right now. Because you're right, it's not just an issue of the fraud, right? Money. Okay, well, yeah, that's bad enough. It's an issue of diverting the money to a bona fide terrorist group, and not just a terrorist group, but a terrorist group that has killed Americans. Unforgivable, as I said a few minutes ago. You know, in any other situation, I would have to reluctantly tell you that we probably wouldn't see anything happen to Tim Walz. But this situation has been so quickly federalized that it would be a crime to not prosecute Tim Walz, right? He knew about it. At the very least, it makes him complicit. And so this is not a partisan issue here, Stephen. This is an issue of right and wrong. There are crimes being committed against the American people, not just the crime of fraud, but support for terrorism, which is a very serious crime, a very serious felony. He did nothing about it. So we have to prosecute those Minnesotans, Somalis or not, who participated in both the fraud and in the support for terrorism. And then Tim Walz is going to have to answer to higher authorities. There's no upside to this. There's no way that he can flip this to his benefit. It's not possible. We're talking about multiple crimes, serious crimes, felonies. He's going to have to pay the piper sooner rather than later. And I'll tell you another thing. The mood in Washington has changed vis-a-vis whistleblowing. I've been a part of the whistleblower community since 2012. It's usually a lonely place to be.
I imagine.
And that's not a good thing. Lately, that has changed. I went to a book launch a week ago. Two IRS whistleblowers wrote a book about their whistleblowing and how they were threatened. This was by the Biden administration. They're the two IRS investigators, and these guys are civil servants. They are utterly apolitical, completely and totally apolitical. And so sorry, I'm going to shut this off. They reported to their superiors that Hunter Biden had spent $10,000 at a sex club and tried to write it off as a country club membership when it was strictly for sex and for booze. And they were told specifically, do not file a charge. And so they got together and they said, you know, we would be remiss if we didn't file the charge. Although if we file a charge, we're going to lose our jobs. They filed the charge. They lost their jobs. They went straight to Capitol Hill. Not only were they reinstated, but Hunter Biden was, of course, charged with a crime to which he pleaded guilty. He was guilty, and he knew he was guilty. Well, at this book launch party, instead of just a couple of whistleblowers standing alone, feeling sorry for themselves, the Secretary of the Treasury showed up, Chairman Comer showed up, Chairman Jordan showed up, the media came, and it was a real celebration of truth-telling. I've never been to a whistleblower event like this before. Usually it's all the same faces. We all give each other hugs and talk about what sad sacks we are. This was a celebration. So the tide has turned in Washington. And if Tim Walz thinks that he could talk his way out of this, He's in for a very rude awakening. Like I said, I would be prepared if I were Tim Walz to face charges in a federal court. I would want an A-list attorney by my side.
When whistleblowers inside Minnesota's government tried to sound the alarm about a billion-dollar fraud scheme, they weren't met with gratitude. They were targeted and silenced. The governor knew about the money being funneled to terrorists, but protected the scheme to secure political power. This isn't just about one state. Across the country, trillions have disappeared from federal budgets, with repeated audits failing to trace the funds. Emotional appeals about helping the needy are used as cover, while insiders get rich and the public is left in the dark.
Yeah, I've actually seen that figure a number of times before he said it. 2.3 trillion with a T dollars. A lot of that is, of course, DOD money, because year after year after year, and I mean you can set your watches to it, Congress appropriates more money than the Pentagon asks for because they want to show how tough they are on defense, and then the money just disappears. There were 3 consecutive years in the last decade when PricewaterhouseCoopers, which is a competitor of Deloitte & Touche, was asked to do an internal audit at the Pentagon. And after 3 years, they threw up their hands and they said, we can't find the money. It's just gone. And what we're talking about altogether is actually more than $20 trillion. The 2.3 trillion is just in the last few years. Inexcusable. And this is one of those things where you can't prosecute Ronald Reagan's welfare queen, right? The welfare queen who was getting checks for 18 children and driving an Eldorado Cadillac. This is systemic fraud. It's not just, there's some bad guys out there that are getting checks that they're not entitled to. This is where the entire system of the state of Minnesota was corrupted. And again, not just corrupted, but financing terrorist groups that kill Americans. I have to say, the Shabab people, the Al-Qaeda people, the ISIS people, they have to be laughing at us right now because they use our money to kill us.
The truth is, these aren't isolated incidents. They're symptoms of a system built to hide its own abuses. Whistleblowers are finally gaining ground, but the fight to expose government secrets and protect public resources is far from over. If we want real accountability, we have to keep asking hard questions and refuse to accept the official story when the facts say otherwise.